lots of challenges, right? And I'm here because I really want to share with you some of the things that I have learned and that experts in my field know are helpful to couples. I'm going to start with some very basic physiological ones. First, slow down. If you find you guys are starting to escalate in a challenging conversation, pause, take a deep breath. That old cliche of count to 10 before you say something. It works if you really take time to notice your physiology, because if you're in your fight or fight mode, it's not going to go well. But if you can pause and say, wow, I'm upset, I'm distressed, and I also care about my partner right now, you're going to have a better conversation. So slow down, deep breaths, notice your heart rate, start to get better at scanning your own body for signs of distress or what I call activation. Are you really getting pumped up? Are you feeling hot? Is your heart rate going up? Are you repeating yourself? Are you getting louder? All of those are signs that you're ramping up in a way that's not going to be helpful for a dialogue or for connection with your partner. The other things I'm going to recommend are that you guys, when you're not upset with each other, really make more time for touch, and particularly for hugs. There's good research that has shown that hugs, especially longer hugs that are really kind of heart to heart, body to body, chest to chest, help to release a hormone called oxytocin, which is otherwise known as our attachment hormone, and that in turn has a role of decreasing our heart rate and decreasing the presence of stress hormones in our bloodstream. So the more we can do to connect in neutral or positive moments, the more support we're going to have for those more challenging moments. Along the same lines, looking at each other, actually gazing into your partner's eyes with loving intention for several seconds softens most people. It sends a signal, it goes way back to infancy, of you are a safe person for me. I can rest in your eyes. So I'm really encouraging these kinds of physical and physiological ways of co-regulating or supporting each other when you're in a good place with each other. Want to encourage some other things, such as keeping a routine, having boundaries around where's workspace, where's work time, where's home time, where's home space, and having a weekly meeting to renegotiate that, to kind of check in with each other and say, is this working? I thought that I worked earlier in the morning than you, but I'm realizing that you get going before me, and maybe it's not such a good idea that we've made the bedroom my office. So those kinds of renegotiations, and not just about time and space, but about new roles and responsibilities. And doing that in a way where you both are there primarily first to hear and understand each other before you go to problem-solving mode. First, just make room, just make time for, that's what it's like for you. I get it. Not, you're telling me it's my fault, or I'm feeling burdened by your stress or your worries, but yeah, I'm here to listen. The more you can do that for each other, the more you can support yourself through some of the major challenges that this social isolation and working from home and kids out of school is posing. I encourage couples when they can, and sometimes even with their kids, to explore practices together, such as doing a yoga class, meditating, giving each other a massage. If you have a religious practice, a spiritual practice, by all means. If prayer is something you enjoy doing together, find time and space to do that. And it may feel like you have less time and less space, even though you're home a lot. But I imagine that there's a lot of time that's being spent in a distracted, disoriented way, just orienting to this new world. And I'm just encouraging you to structure it, to find the time for those things that actually sustain you. I'm also going to suggest that for a lot of us, we are way ahead of ourselves, worrying about the future, what's going to come, how do I know I'm going to be healthy? And that is part of what fosters an ongoing sense of threat. Whatever you can do to help yourselves and each other be more in the present, whether it's through your breath work, through feeling your feet literally planted on the ground, through holding hands, through feeling into your senses. All of those things are going to help you know that, for the most part, in any given moment, most of us are actually okay. We may be in grief, we may be feeling fear, we may have symptoms, we may not be feeling well, but unless you're so sick that you're in the hospital or on your way, the likelihood is that you are at least health-wise going to be okay. So it's really important to practice all of those things, like getting into your senses. We call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you look at 5 things, you touch 4 things, you listen to 3 sounds, you smell 2 things, you try to taste 1 thing. Your senses can ground you, and it might be a nice practice to do with your children as well, if you have children. And then there's, again, the breath work. I'm not going to say too much more about it, but if you can focus on breathing with full, deep, embodied inhalations and even longer exhalations, that will send a signal to your brain that you're okay. I'm going to share a story about a couple named Pam and Raul, whom I saw last week, and they told me that they'd had probably a 2-day major blow up. They did not recover from it for 2 days over what to do with their groceries when they brought them home. One of them, Pam, wanted to wipe everything down with Lysol spray and wipes. And Raul thought that was unnecessary and excessive, and he became very critical of her. He felt very controlled by her. And while they thought they were arguing about the safety of the food, when we got down to it, they both got triggered by some very old concerns that felt quite familiar. Raul had often felt like he had no influence in his house as a kid. He had a very stern set of parents, and they really rarely listened to his feelings or his needs. And whenever he felt like his wife was insisting on something, he would get irate and incensed. And she, in turn, had grown up feeling unsafe. She had had an older brother who was physically abusive to her, and her feelings about the groceries were, again, a sense of there's a threat here, and I need to know that you're a safe person and care about my fear. And when Raul couldn't respond to that emotional need, but got more focused on the kind of science and the practicalities around cleaning all the food off before it went into the refrigerator or the cupboard, she just felt very alone. Once they were able to understand that a little bit better, they came up with a plan that took care of both of them. And I'm hoping that if you start to feel like you're having recurring arguments, that you will step back and have a little bit of reflection and saying, what is getting triggered in me that this is so intense? This is not about the groceries, or it's not about the fact that I can't go meet my best friend for a walk because my partner is immunocompromised and doesn't want me to even see anyone. This is about something else. Can I get curious about what that is? So those are some of the things that I would like you all to consider doing to support yourselves through this time and support your relationship, and continue to do things that you did in the past, rituals of connection, little notes, little moments that are romantic or sexy or flirtatious, and small appreciations. Have an appreciation practice, maybe at dinner. Just go around and say something that you appreciate about everyone who's in your household and something they did that day that you're grateful for. It can go a long way. In terms of what not to do, I'm going to really encourage you to not continue with a discussion that turns into an argument if you are in a rage. Find the warning signs to that early. Is your heart rate up? Are you repeating yourself? Are you just flying off the handle? Or are you completely shut down? If that's the case, you have to have a way to signal to your partner, we're going to take a break. I'm not available for this right now. We'll come back to it later. You also have to avoid expecting your partner to react the way you would to things that feel either threatening, concerning, alarming, or even deeply upsetting. If someone dies and you're really in a lot of pain around it and your partner's not, They need to make space for your pain, but they don't have to have the pain that you're having. So really allowing for your two different people, different coping strategies that have probably served you well most of your life, and different ways of managing when you're upset. You might be someone who needs connection when you're upset. Many of us do. But some people actually feel from way back when that they do better when they turn inside and they kind of turn to themselves for that kind of healing that needs to happen when they're feeling a lot of pain. So really practicing patience, acceptance, tolerance, and a lot of compassion for both of you. I'm also going to encourage that people refrain from too much exposure to news about the COVID-19 virus, too much news about politics, too much of your work life intruding in your bedroom. Put your phones away at a certain point. Make sure you have some screen-free time together. And if all that fails, please know that there are other sources of support and other resources. If you're really struggling with your relationship, if your fights are escalating and it's getting scary, or if you're completely isolated and feeling like you're in separate silos, there are many resources out there. I'm just going to share a couple of them for now. There is the Westchester County COVID Mental Health Resource Line. You can either call 995-1900 or you can text 461-7281. Both of those are 914 area codes. Hope this has been helpful. I wish you all health, safety, and patience as we get through this. Thanks.